Hey, what's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of The Finance Bro, where we have real conversations with real people about money. Today, I have no other than my brother, Quinton Singleton, on here to talk about, his financial journey and what's led him to get where he is now. And hopefully you guys can pick up a lot of nuggets from this conversation. So before we get started, Q, please introduce yourself and thank you for being on the show, my brother.
Definitely. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me on the show. For everybody else, my name is Quinton Singleton, graduate of the United States Naval Academy. Left there, went into the United States Marine Corps, did 6 years. I was deployed in Oki. Also, yeah, not forget, I am a brother of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Are you?
I
But yeah, man, yeah, all that good stuff. I got stationed out here in 2018. I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and this is where I'm currently staying right now. After I got out, continue to stay here, started investing here. We'll see how long I'll be here, man.
Hey, well, I'm excited to have you on the show. So, for those of you listening who aren't familiar with me and Q's relationship, it all started once again back in 2010 at Naps, and
2010.
we've it's been a journey, and it's been pretty cool because we've been on this journey together. And actually, we both started our business journey together in Okinawa. At that point, we like 22, 23, and we didn't really know what we wanted to do. We had been in the military at the time. We had been out there, and we quickly realized that the military was not going to be able to help us build the wealth that we wanted to build. And we realized that there had to be an answer out there. But we didn't know where to find it. Everyone that we were around was all like, oh, stay in 20 years, get your retirement, and then you could do something else. But it's just like, bro, there's got to be a different way. Like, I just don't, that doesn't equate to what I'm trying to do with my lifestyle. But
Exactly.
we realized quickly that we were taking advice from people who didn't have the goals that we had for ourselves. And we spent hours like researching things. I mean, we were drop shipping to, I
Drop
mean, you
shipping,
name it, we was going
everything.
through. So, you know, Q, I wanna start there and kind of what let you tell people like what drove you to want to start looking for more.
So the thing that made me start looking for more, I would say, basically started high school. Like I knew I wanted to go to college, right? And my mom could not afford to send me to college. So at some point, I don't know when it clicked, but I was like, all right, if you're gonna go to college, you have to sacrifice right now, right?
Mm,
So it was myself and my two cousins. My mom was supporting us, single mom, supporting three, four kids. And I knew she wasn't gonna be able to afford it. So I had to start sacrificing. Luckily, I got good at this football thing. Got to the Naval Academy, and I realized, all right, I'm kind of smart. Like you have to be smart to get in here, first of
mm-hmm.
all. It's very, very hard to get in. But I got in with football and being able to have that knowledge. And I knew it was special. So when I got out or got into the Marine Corps, I enjoyed everything I did with the Marine Corps. Like it was a great time, but I knew I wasn't making the money that I wanted to make on the outside. So the first thing I did when we got out to Oki, started thinking like, all right, this is cool, but like what can we be doing to accelerate our lives, like reach financial freedom sooner? So we
Mm,
went into drop shipping and all of this stuff. And I remember one day I was reading or looking at a video on YouTube, and the guy on it, he was saying, when you're networking with people and people ask you how your day's doing, don't just say, "Oh, I'm good," or like just brush it off. You know what I mean? You actually tell people what you're looking for and what you're trying to do. So I
mm,
remember I went into work, right, and I was talking to one of the sergeants, and one of the master sergeant came in. He asked me how I was doing. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing okay, but I'm really trying to get into real estate. I'm trying to find something to invest in. And he was like, "Oh, are you really?" I was like, "All right, yeah, for sure. I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to make some more money." So he was like, "I've got a friend that bought a couple multifamilies in Hawaii. You should talk to him." So I got on the phone with him. We chopped it up. He was a cool guy. I mean, I wish I could get back in contact with him, but the guy I got his number from, he owned a flip phone and he has no social media, so that's
uh,
not gonna happen, right? So he told me I need you to do two things. Look at look up this website. It's called biggerpockets.com and read this book. It's called oh, what's the name of the book everybody reads?
Rich
I'm
Dad Poor
blanking.
Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. There it is. Yeah, yeah. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, that changed my entire view on how I view money. I mean, it's nothing too crazy in there. It's pretty anecdotal, but like I had not had a grasp on how to look at money, and that kind of opened up the doors for me, like to learn the difference between being an investor and being a consumer or having a bunch of
Mm.
liabilities or holding assets. So that changed the game for me. And when I got back to Virginia, I was ready, man.
Wow, that's so. That's the actually. I don't even know if I knew about that piece with
That
the
video,
asking.
yeah,
Yeah, this is my first time hearing about this, but
yeah,
that's actually dope because I know me personally, it's been plenty of time. I mean, even the Marine Corps, what happened? You walk around, hey, how you doing, killer? It's living the dream, doing all right.
yeah,
Nobody's actually
exactly,
until you stop and like, how you really doing though? And I think that's actually really dope because it goes into the concept that we all talk about it. Like you never know who can do what for you.
exactly.
So through doing that, you open yourself up to a blessing, really, because like
Opportunities,
yeah, like closed mouths don't get fed is really
exactly.
how it goes. So when you learned that information and you got that from him, like did you do it once he gave you those books and and gave you the Bigger Pockets app? Like what did you do next?
So what I did was started learning, went on Bigger Pockets, scrolled the forum, look for anything I can learn, man. I was trying to learn how to run numbers, how to do flips, how to wholesale, trying to hone in on what I wanted to do. And not to say that I figured it out, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had never done it. It's kind of like anything you do, like you can study for all these things, you can get all these licenses, but until you do it in the real world, man, it doesn't seem, or it's just doesn't seem as real until you get in there and do
Mm-hmm.
it. You don't know all the difficulties with this stuff. But yeah, that's what I did, man. I honed in what I was trying to do and learn about real estate, learn about running numbers, learn about flipping, all of that stuff. And when this was coming up on the time, I finished the book. I got all the blessings from that thing. And this was coming up on the time where I was rotating back to the States. So I never got to stay in contact with him. I only hit him up that one time. But I went back to the States. And the first thing I did was I lived with Chew
Mm.
Trevez. I lived with Trevez Bush. And through him, I was able to like save up a little bit of money and find somewhere where I wanted to stay. I wanted to buy my first house because it was a big deal for me. I know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't looking at it like it'll be an asset for me, but having read and I went and bought in a nice neighborhood that I knew would appreciate. It's in a great school district. So I knew it would be an asset, but at the time, like it wasn't an asset to me. It was just like, oh, this is my home. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else does. This is my home. It has to be the best home. But I knew like it didn't need to be my forever home. So I bought a nice home, $240,000 in Virginia Beach. At the time was pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And that has now grown to about 340,000 over the past 4 years. So I did pretty well. And after I bought my first home, the first thing I did was I hit up Joffrey because I knew he was into real estate and I knew he was into investing. So we were looking for a multifamily. I don't know if he mentioned it, but we were looking for a multifamily at the beginning. And one day, I just happened to be at his house. We were looking on Redfin, looking at multifamilies, and then this one single family house popped up, and it was a deal, man. It was a great area. It was a deal for about 160, 169, 169, and then we had the cash on hand because in Okie, we figured it out. Like lifestyle is a lot different, man. It's crazy to see. You go over there, you drive a little beat up car,
Yep.
drive a little beat up car. You wear cargo shorts everywhere and sandals, man. You
And
don't
tank
you don't
top.
really, you know what I mean? Like the lifestyle is completely different, and nobody cares, nobody judge you on that. But you come here, and then it's completely different. But I knew he wanted to do something, so we picked that up, and I knew he had experience with Airbnb, and wasn't too sure. on my end, he was pretty sure on his end. I wasn't too sure. But then I was like, all right, man, you've got a proven track record and I trust you. And this is a great house. Like I've used Airbnb before. So this is a great house. So let's give it a chance. And luckily, I mean, here we are, what, 4 years later, 3, 4 years later, that thing has done great for us, man. It's given us a lot of opportunities. And it wasn't the home run out of the gate, you know. We spent a lot of money trying to fix that thing up and get it ready for Airbnb.
Hmm.
But we made the first steps and that snowballed into what he and I are doing. I mean, we got stuff together, we got things separately, but I mean, it gave us those opportunities to build to this point.
It's so couple of things from that. First thing being, when you hit on like, driving the beater cars, like I drove a Toyota Will Cypher, a blue Toyota Will Cypher out there. That was my baby.
Uh-huh.
And, no one, you wasn't out there dressing flashy and all of those things. And, for me being out there, that was a huge eye opener for me that like told me that none of this stuff matters, right? Like, how is it that we all are American? We're over here. Nobody, drive up with this little cart. No one cares. We hop in and we go. No one's like, oh, look what he's driving, right? So it's like, if this can happen just by change of location, that shows me that this doesn't matter. So my focus shouldn't be on materialistic things because this shows you. So when we noticed that, because I know you noticed the same thing, it was like I'm gonna save my money until I know what to do with it. But I know it don't need to go to these things. Right. So I think we both were in the same position where we would come back. A lot of people go to these places and come back probably broker than they were. They doing all this extra stuff. They're partying. They're like, oh, I don't have any liabilities, right? You living in the barracks or whatever. So I just spending money. But it's like, yo, we were able to think past the today, think past now. I'm like, yo, we saved this money. Like we know we want to do things. And one of the things that really irritates me with people is like, oh, well, why would I save the money? I don't know what to do with it right now. And it's like, bro, if you save the money when the opportunity comes and you know what to do with it, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And so that was all real huge for me because even now I think that's a direct reflection of how we live our lives now. None of us are flashy. None of us drive. When we're all focused on the same mission, the same goals, and we support each other.
Right.
Um, but the second part to that being, you went into a situation where you weren't necessarily as confident, but you were able, your boy who you trusted, be able to have those conversations. You knew enough, y'all were in tune enough to like, yo, okay, he knows what he's doing. I'm going to trust him. I don't have to be in charge, right? I think that's another thing that people mess up is like they want to be like, oh, I got to take lead. Well, I got to have some say so. Like, no, bro, it's okay to play your role. Like, I think
Absolutely.
people don't understand that in order to lead, you got to learn how to follow, and you can't
Follow.
be the best guy every time, right? And or the best woman every time. And I think that's extremely important because so many people, especially in our community, want to be the one to say, I did it, bro.
Did it.
If we're all eating, who cares? You know what I'm saying? And I
Exactly.
think that's a great mentality that we have. That no one's ever like, oh, bro, I don't want him getting the shine. Yo, what's the mission? What do we do? Cool, we gonna get it done. Everybody plays
How
their
can
role,
how
and I
can I
think,
help?
and I'm sure that helped y'all. So I remember pulling up when y'all were working. That's the house with the saltwater pool, right?
That's the
So
same one. That's the first one.
for everyone listening, because I was excited, came back. I go up there to visit them, and they're like, yeah, pull up to the house. I'm like, oh, this is one of y'all. Like, oh no, this is the Airbnb we're working on, and what got me is a lot of people, like, oh, yes, I gotta find people do this and that. Like they were in there putting in work themselves. They're painting, they're moving stuff around. It's like, yo, we gotta cut the expenses, but we know how to do these things. And the goal is this. I'm not too proud to get out here and put in
Exactly.
some blood work, and it paid off.
Exactly. We did that both working full time jobs, man. We were both in the Marine Corps. I get off work at like 4 and we go in there and paint, clean the pool. I mean, the pool was black, dude.
Over, oof.
The pool was black when we bought the place, man. We would get off and then spend hours in there doing bathtub, like things I've never done before in a house, never had to, because we went straight to Okie. I never owned a house before. I never rented an
Mm-hmm.
apartment. So things I didn't even know you had to do, like we were in there doing them and it saved us a lot of money. So I'm glad we did it. Would I do it again? Probably not, man. If I can afford to have somebody do it and the numbers make sense. But like for us to get in there and learn like how to do these things for the first year, and we took care of a lot of the problems ourselves. It allowed us to be in the situation we're in right now.
That's that's actually a really smart move. And I think, you know, everyone thinks they gotta be able to do all the stuff up front. And it's like it's okay to learn as you go, right? Like, and you got that confidence, you know, you got to find good people to keep around. But like when you don't, so one of the things, you know, I talked about in the book was like your circle. And
Hmm.
it comes up to be so, it comes to be so important so many times because every story that you've told so far, it's been with another person within your circle who has the same goal and is be able to help y'all been able to balance each other out to progress as men. And I think that's extremely important, you know. And I see a lot of people who might start working towards a goal, they kind of make their circle smaller, but then somehow they start opening back up to the same people and all their progress stops.
Yeah, man, it's important to have the right people around you. That's why our circle is really good, man. Like I know somebody in real estate. I know somebody in the restaurant business. I know somebody in stocks. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. I can
Mortgages,
go
like,
mortgage anything, almost anything. Like I can go ask somebody about it. I don't have to leave it outside of my circle, man. Like we circulate this money on the inside, you know what I mean? Like so
mm-hmm.
all of us prosper. A lot of people don't realize like your network is really your network.
It
Like
is.
it's cliche, but it's so true, man. And the thing that keeps me going is seeing you guys do well, and then I'm thinking, all right, I need to be doing the same thing because I don't want to drop out of the friend circle. I don't want to be not worthy of hanging around you guys. So that pushes me every day. You know what I mean?
That's that's actually huge. Wow, like because there's so many people who don't have that, right? Like that's a great way to break it down. It's like, yo, you your circle of friends makes you constantly want to be productive because you don't want to fall behind and then be like, I'm not worthy. I that's actually a great way to put it. Like, am I worthy? Get you a group of friends that you have to worry about if you're worthy or not to be
You're
with them.
worthy or
It's
not.
going to change your life. I
Exactly.
promise you. It's going to change your life.
Exactly. Let's put that on a t-shirt,
I
man, for
know, right?
sure, bro. Seriously. But it's not even like a competition thing, you know what I mean? I don't
Mm-hmm.
care what you guys do. You guys are succeeding, I'm happy. But I
Mm-hmm.
just want to be there too, so we can enjoy this thing on the back end together. You know, it it'll be lonely going on a trip to Greece or somewhere for 30 days, alone. Like I'd rather
Yeah.
do it with friends and family and let them have the freedom to do it too. So
And
yeah,
because y'all all set the same standards, we all set the same standards for each other. We know we're not dealing with debt problems. We know that we're all financially stable and smart with our finances, right? And even with that, right? Like the fact that you were able to come back from Okinawa and get a home and an Airbnb, like what was that like? What was your how were you managing your money in Okinawa to get you to that point where you come back and at least know confidently that you could do those things?
all right. So the best way to save money is either like get a job that save more money is get a job that pays more or spend less. So I figured the only way I was going to do it because I wasn't getting a raise
Yeah,
unless I
until you
got
get
promoted
promoted.
out there until you get promoted out there. But I knew I wasn't getting a raise anytime soon, so I had to spend less. So I spent a lot of my time in the barracks. Like the one thing I will say from the academy, like it was great experience and I did learn a lot. But the one thing I valued a lot is my ability to manage time, man. Because
Mm,
while we're in the barracks or in the dorms, Bancroft, watching Instagram and looking at everybody else go out, and we wanted to participate in Thirsty Thursdays, and we wanted to be
mm-hmm.
at Howard and everything else. We had no choice but to be in the barrack or in the dorms, but we grew accustomed to that lifestyle. So it
Yeah.
wasn't something that we needed, to have fun. We had fun. We made fun. We had fun whenever the time permitted. So when I came out here, like yeah, so the way I was able to manage that is because like I had that lifestyle already at the
Mm,
academy. So when I went out to Okinawa, I didn't have to go out and spend all my lieutenant money. Like
mm-hmm.
I could spend my time at 78's house and go to Coco's, get a quick meal and have a good time at the house. I wasn't out
Mm-hmm.
in the clubs every weekend. So I knew I had a plan when I got back to Virginia, right? And I had saved enough money. Like we were doing well out there. We didn't have as many expenses. Like I was living
Mm-hmm.
on base, living in the barracks or the old barracks. But I saved enough money where I had the options to do something when I came back. And then when I got to Virginia, I was able to buy my house. We used the VA, which is really, really a game changer for people
Mm-hmm.
in the military. If you haven't used VA or you don't know about the VA loan, it's a game changer, 0% down. But I used that to fund my first house, and then I had no money out of pocket. Uh, we bought the Airbnb, and then I knew like, all right, I got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and an Airbnb. How can I make my personal home make me money, right?
Mm.
So I went out and I did it all the wrong ways. You know what I mean? Like the sketchiest ways I did it. I went and found a roommate on Craigslist, and I just happened to look up like he was from South Carolina. And he was cool. We met. He moved in while I was on deployment. I met
Mm.
him 3 days before I was going on deployment. So he had my house to himself for that entire time. And he, to his credit, man, he was a great roommate. He stayed with me for 2 years, and like I was pushing for him because he was a disabled veteran. He
Mm.
had hurt himself, but the whole time we were staying here, like I realized he wasn't spending a lot of money either. He was saving a bunch, but he was still paying me rent to live in one of my extra bedrooms. So I was pushing him since the beginning. I was like, dude, you don't need to be living with me. You should
Mm-hmm.
have your own crib, man. You make enough money where you can go get your own crib. And he did this. He didn't listen for the first year, and then he was like, he stayed with me. He was watching me on the phone, talking to Joffrey, talking to everybody else, like making deals happen. And he was like, man, I got to get a part of this. So when he started looking, I was like, I'm gonna help you look for a crib, man. And if you want to do Airbnb, you want to do something else because you're doing well. You could do the same thing. And he finally made it happen. And then I was super proud, man. Like that made me happy to see him actually take steps to become financially free. And then I got another roommate, and she did the same exact thing. I told her the same thing. She was a lieutenant in the Navy, and she got promoted while she was here. She saved a bunch of money moving out of her apartment and moving into that's my spare bedroom. But she's doing well for herself now. Now she's taking those steps to become financially free, and it is awesome to see that I'm able to inspire some people, man.
You know, that's a big one because there's a lot of people that feel like doing something like owning a home is out of their league, like something that they just can't do.
Can't
And
ever do.
so being in the position where you can, you know, instill the confidence in them that like they are worthy to do those things, you know, because I think that's a big part of it is a lot of people feel like they're not worthy to be able to do those. Oh, no one else in my family's done it. I don't know anything about it. And it's like, so like if you put these steps in place, you can do that very successfully. And it's like, wait, there's steps? Yeah, I'll show you. Here. You already meet this criteria, but all you got to do is this. And it's like all of a sudden they go from feeling like, you know, it's something that's impossible to like, wow, I really can do this. And all it took was you,
Exactly.
one, telling them they can, encouraging them, and then giving them the information. And
Show
like,
them how to do it.
then two, what happened? You just said they all of a sudden they started interacting with people within your circle that like, whoa, it's more than you. It's like, so this really is possible. And like now
It's
you got
really
hearing people who can say it in different ways to where they just hearing all these different ways of telling them that it can be done.
it can
Next
be
thing you
done.
know, boom, now they're on their journey. And it's like, wow, you know, people need that. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I've noticed, you know, me, trust, all is like the more we start having like conversations with people, the more we realize that there are thousands of people out here that don't have anyone to pour into them to tell them that they can do something to show. And it's like, so I realized that there's a lot of people when they do get in that experience, they don't know how to take it. It's like, nah, I'll show you what to do. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, nah, bro, people really do help. You just got to get around the right people.
Exactly.
You know, like if
And
you
as
show that you're willing to put in the work, because they're not gonna do it for you. But if you
right,
show that you're of the caliber and you put it in the work, yo, a person who has the answers is typically going to give them to you because they know that you can be successful too. That's just another person to add to the team that can get stuff, going. But people don't understand that. But I think that's dope. Like, that's two people whose lives are changing because of your ability to do that.
Yeah, man, it's a blessing.
And
It really is.
that's out. So in regards to what you're doing now business wise, like what what is driving you now to like your goals, right? Your financial goals. Like how are you setting, how did you set that up, and like how are you working towards those?
So my financial goals, I mean, I'm pretty much have met my financial goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just my bare minimum is to be able to live free, and I'm doing that. Like I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to go work another day in my life. I've made
Mm-hmm.
great investments, so that's a start. But I also want to build things to leave for my kids, or if I have kids, you know what I mean, or
Mm-hmm.
for my family. When I go, I don't want people paying off my debt.
Yeah.
So that's what's driving me, and I'm trying to build in this community and this network of friends that I've developed. So right now, I've got friends in different industry, and I see a uh, a hole in the financial advising place. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel I like to do little things on the side. I have enough free time where I can go look at crypto, look at the stock market. You know what I mean? So I'm going to fill that role in my friend group, and I also am increasing the amount of knowledge I have on stocks and the economy and the markets and all that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what's pushing me right now. I'm trying to do that. That's what I'm transitioning from. I took a year off, to try to find myself. And honestly, I was lost for a while, man. It was a dark time, but kind of got some good people around me. Even this weekend, going down there and visiting you, man, like just seeing how I can help you guys out, how you can help me out, just different ideas I'd never thought about using social media and all these other things. Like that's what's pushing me to continue to grow, to continue to build, because I don't want to be normal. I don't have a desire to
Mm-hmm.
just sit around. That was a miserable year, and I did do some growing in that time. It wasn't all bad, but like it got dark for a minute. And then my people brought me back, and now I'm ready to go. Um, as
So,
fired up as ever.
that's I like to dive into that piece, right? Because I think all of us went through that piece, right? And like one of the things that we learned here, which was like shocking, is that everyone's really lost. Like everyone's lost, and it's like the only difference is the ones who are willing to admit it are the ones typically you want to be around. It's like that was, growing up, it's, oh, adults, they got all the answers, blah, 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 this and that. And it's like, even now, the people that we thought had the answers, now we realize it's like, oh, whoa,
Yeah,
they don't, right? And
absolutely.
that's learning to accept, okay, we're all lost. Let's pick a direction together and let's just see how it goes. Cause it's a lot less scary going down that track with a group than it is alone, right? But it's like we already, we no one knows the answers. Everyone's making it up as they go. Like, let's just do what we
Let's figure
know
it out.
and make it happen, right? But I think that there's a lot of people who listen who may be in that dark space or may have been in that dark space before. And I think um that taking the time to do what's necessary to not only get out of it, but to make sure that you're putting the steps in place to where you don't get back in that position again is important. So, what was that experience like for you?
It was tough, man. I spent a lot of time like I got out and I thought I had my what I was gonna do in mind. That fell through. So I spent a lot of time sitting on my couch waiting. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I got fat, wasn't going to the gym. I didn't look at any real estate. I was just spending my time watching TV and twiddling my thumbs, man. So I had to reach out to friends. Luckily, I had people to talk to. Like I was lost. I was lost, and then I was telling people, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling." And they're like, "All right, it's all right to feel like that." and you don't have all the answers, but hey, how about you take these steps? You start taking steps and you build momentum, and you come out of that fog, and you finally got a plan put in place. But it took a while to get there, man. Like, and I can say like my circle is the reason I got through that fog. So
No,
uh,
that's awesome. That's awesome because there's it's sad because there's a lot of people who go into that dark place and never get around anyone that can help them get out of it, and they just stay
word,
perpetually in that dark space.
yeah, because it snowballs, man. It's like anxiety and depression is if you stay in that little echo chamber, dude, it gets bad. So you gotta learn how to seek help. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be
Mm,
afraid to look stupid. Like, I hate talking to people. You know what I mean? I hate hearing the sound of my voice. I hate all of like
same,
social media stuff. You know what I mean? But like,
same.
this is an opportunity. It's a chance. So go ahead and take it. Step out of your comfort zone. Like, what's to lose? Chances are we get 80 years on this rock. So
Mm-hmm.
why not make the best of it? Nope. At the end of the day, nobody cares, man. Like, we're all gonna go. We all gotta
Yeah,
go sometime. So everybody everybody cares, but nobody cares. Like, just do what you
like
want to
that.
do.
Everybody cares, but nobody cares. I like that. But yeah,
Yeah, dude.
it really is just chasing your dreams. Like I tell people the story all the time. Like when I started, doing building in the smoker, and like I'd get DMs, people laughing, what are you doing? Why are you talking about that? Like nobody wants to hear that. Like, yo,
So
bro,
what?
what's E doing? Like, why is he doing it, bro? He's tripping, like unfollowing, like, all type of comments. And like
Yep.
it was hard. I'm like, yo, what am I tripping? Like, I feel like this is stuff that people need to know, but why is this the reaction I get? And it made me consider like or think about like, yo, am I doing the right thing? And I sat down with myself and I was like, yo, do you believe that this is something positive is going to do something good? I do. Okay, then they don't need to see the vision then. And those people aren't in the position to where you should even care about what they think. Right. Like not
What
had
do
to
you
realize that too.
what do you think? Yeah, I was gonna ask you, yeah, what do you think the common thing is with the people that try to bring you down when they see you doing positive things? From what have you noticed is in common with those people like that are personally doing the bad comments on your pics or unfollowing or not supporting on purpose or sending the bad DMs? What do you think
They
that is?
they're unhappy with their own lives. I'd say without a doubt they don't feel like they're accomplishing anything. Um they they aren't self-starters. Um they typically live in the world of excuses rather than, figuring out the reasons getting things done. I think that, you know, because they don't have support, they find it hard to support others, right? And I think a huge part of it too is, I see this person doing something, even though we come from the same roots or we spent time together. If this person is successful, that's another person that's left me behind.
Mm-hmm.
I got like the kind of like we say the crab in the barrel kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think all of those things play a factor. And I mean, if you get somebody on that, and on top of all of that, they're also unhappy with themselves. They don't want to see anyone else happy. And for me, I just had to realize that, I I don't need to pay attention to what these people are saying. I know the vision. I know where I want to take this. I just have to see it through. And it's like now I was looking back, I saw an old video, like I was scrolling through, cleaning up files, and I was wow, no beard. I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I was still deep in the Marine Corps. And it's like, oh, that's like 2.5 years ago. And it was like a real humbling moment for me because that's the time that I was also getting those comments from people. But it's like now through perseverance and continuing to do what I was
Consistent.
doing and being persistent,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's attitude towards in the smokers changed now. No one's like, oh, what is that? What are you doing no more? It's like, now I have people, y'all, I learned something, or hey, can I come be around you? Like, I want to come hang out with y'all because I don't have what you guys are building over there. Like, and y'all pour into people. Like, y'all are clearly doing well, but you're also unselfish. And it's like those people who we were just speaking about with those negative traits don't realize that if they just humble themselves and ask for help, they could get it, right? But instead they try to, they negative Debbie Downers trying to be hide hide their negative motives through like jokes and things,
mm,
right? And it's like,
mm, mm,
yo, I could have just brought you along the journey. Like I know what you're good at. Like we can come up with ideas to get you doing something as well. But now, because of that, I will leave you behind. Like I don't feel I don't owe anything to anyone. So that was one of the biggest things I had to learn to work through. Is like I always I had to like take care of everyone. I had to, well, what do they think? Are they cool? And it's just like,
mm-hmm.
bro, no. Like I coined this phrase. I started saying, I don't know when I started using. I feel like it's old, but I had always said it. But like it means more to me now that we're older. We own properties, all those things. I tell people, yo, the only way I really care about your opinion, like outside of like my mom and my brothers and my group of friends, is like, yo, if you're not putting a roof over my head, you're not putting a paycheck in my pocket or food on my table, your opinion really doesn't matter to me. Like there's literally no reason your thoughts one way or another are going to affect me. And keeping that mindset has been, oh, that was a game changer for me, bro. Like that was huge because it's like, oh, well, so and so doesn't think, or so and so said, all right, I, my light's still on. You know what I'm saying? This smoker's still running. Like
I
cool.
got you.
Like it, I'll wait till the typical, hey bro, I know we had this, a couple years ago, but I would it always comes, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my perception of it. So now I'll flip it. What do you think it is?
I honestly think that you hit everything. You It's like people that are in a position where they want to be in your position or one similar, and they don't put in the work to do that. So they think the best way to do it is to stop you from gaining as much momentum as possible. And the best way you can do that is through the comment section. A lot of them won't say it to your face or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, but it's the anonymity and it's the disconnect between social media and the real life. That's what kept me from doing it for a while, man. Like I had to get away from that stuff. It's
Mm.
hard to get nuance in anything through a comment section. So I had to stay away from Twitter and all that stuff because people don't think. People don't think. They like to I guess cancel and all this stuff now, and one person's opinion, everybody can just jump on it now. It's a majority
Mm-hmm.
opinion without any details. So I think that's what it is. People are definitely unhappy with themselves and they see an opportunity to be a part of a group that's stopping you and it makes them feel good. So now they're on the same level as you.
Yep, because then they could run around and be like, I told you you couldn't do it. Like,
Exactly.
oh, I was right about
Exactly. I
something.
was right. It's that I was right. I told you. So
That
that's what I feel.
is have you have you experienced people trying to put you as you like been doing what you like growing and building things up? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing our real estate thing and I was posting all this stuff and then I get people like just asking me weird questions and then saying like trying to tell me why these things don't work, why Airbnb doesn't work, like and like it never deterred me. Like I had a plan from the beginning and I knew if that didn't work then I had a backup. It was going to turn into a long term. So you put stuff out there and people just think that or people just think that you're trying to be better than them because you're in a better position. So now you're flaunting it and when you're not, you're just trying to show people like that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I bought my house, I definitely put it on there. Like, hey, I'm only this years old and I just bought my first home. You can definitely do it
It's a
too.
huge
Trying to be
accomplishment.
positive. Exactly. And like I was just trying to be positive. And you have people that don't want to see you happy. So
Yeah, I think that that's important for people to realize is like you're gonna be around people who aren't happy with themselves, and you have to be able to just identify it and kind of just shield yourself from it because it's really a part of it. Like as you continue to grow yourself and work, it gets much lonelier. Like as you get mental clarity and you try to do things, it's like, oh, well, if you're not I'm trying to tell you, what I learned, that here's this book. Why'd I read this book? Bro, this book has all the answers. Like the things you're dealing with, I'm not reading no book. Like, well, why don't you just tell me what it said? That defeats the purpose of the book. Like you need to do the work. It's like No one's going to give it to you. And I think that's another thing that people have a hard time, you know, that egotistical, like prideful, like I did this and this. Somebody should just blah blah blah. No, bro, like that's not how it works. Like I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, bro, I'm looking to get into Airbnb. Like, I need you to teach me. I'm going to say, hey, bro, I'm trying to get an Airbnb. Here's the properties I looked at. Here's the ROIs that I'm seeing, blah, blah. Here's the areas, blah, blah. Can you look over this and tell me what you think? Right.
Do my
I've done the
numbers look
work.
good?
And it's like, oh, bet. Well, actually, did you think now you're going to be wanting to help because I've already done all the work. Cool. But, you know, I see so many people who's like, hey, I want the answers. Well, what have you learned on your own? Well, I was just hoping that you could teach me. Well, you expect me to think that me taking 2, 3, 4 hours of my time to teach you when you didn't take any of your own time in the start? Like, you don't even know the basics. Like that, how can you say you're serious about something and you haven't at least taken the time to learn the basics? You know, and
Exactly.
and people, that's it's sad because there's a lot of people that just don't want to do the work. Oh, that's too much. I don't have the time. My boy, you watch Netflix 4 hours a night. You got the time, right? It's just how you choose to use it. And
Discipline, sacrifice, this and
and
that.
two things that a lot of people lack. Like people lack discipline. Like, yo, you know you shouldn't be going to brunch this week, but yet, oh, I deserve to live life now, YOLO. And then
But a lot of people don't realize they can't afford brunch because they don't even know what they're spending. You know what I mean?
exactly. And
Like
it's
how you
like,
know how you don't
do
know
you
what you're saving.
do you have a
None of that.
budget? Oh, and that even that. So you know what baffled me is when I first started, I'd ask like just conversation. Like I'm trying to, you know, learn about people, money, like to be able to service people better. And I'd ask like, yo, do you use a budget? And bro, the reaction I would get from people, you would think I said the most disrespectful thing to them ever. And I just asked you if you budget. What do you mean my budget? I know how to handle my money.
Got money. I knew it. Yeah.
So if you know how to handle your money, why would you not have a budget? You realize that any business, they have a budget. Any person who is successful with their finances manages a budget. But for some reason, when I ask you if you have a budget, it's like I'm saying that you're less than. You need, bro. I update my budget daily. You know, so I'm going to know what I'm spending. Like it's the
Mm-hmm.
only way to make sure that you're doing right by your money. But it's like even that, the fact that people are so misguided and miseducated now that the thought of having a budget seems like a negative to them. But it's like all the signs show otherwise. Like yo, how much if you do how much do you money you spend eating out? I know, oh, $80 a month. You mind if we just look at your last bank statement? I mean, I could tell you it's 80, but cool, you look at it. $800 later.
There you go. Yep.
Oh man, I didn't realize it. I said, you see why you need a budget now? Yeah, I just, you know, I thought I was doing a good job. It has nothing to
Uh-huh.
do with you, but it just helps you track stuff. And it's like, bro, I need y'all to get this through your mindset that that's not a negative. Like managing your personal finances properly will only be better for you in the long run, right? Like the saddest thing I see is when I see, you know, people in their 50s, 60s, and their credit's bad. They have zero money to their name, and all they want to do is just buy a home, and they can't. It's like you worked your whole life, and it's like I'm trying to tell people, yo, that's you can solve that now. Yo, if you just start putting in the work, you're 24, 25, 26, even 30, you know, whatever it is. The only way to ensure that it's not a thing is to start now. People think that they can wait their problems away.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize that the more time you wait, that's you just building digging a deeper hole for you to eventually have to climb out of. And
And you shorten that time to climb out of it.
mm-hmm.
You know, that's
And then, you know, if most of your time is spent climbing out of it, you ain't gonna enjoy walking around none. So it's
good
like,
enough.
why are you? We just, bro, the steps are here. We just do this, but it's oh, you know, well, I've worked so hard and I just deserve to enjoy my life now. Or you could put in the work now, make a sacrifice. Like, yo, I'm looking at these numbers. In a year, you could be debt free. You just need to cut this, and this. And it's like, even the simple conversations like, hey, you have Netflix. Hulu, HBO, Stars. But you just pick one for now, pay everything else down, and then you can start building these things back with, oh, I got to watch my shows. So you care more about the shows than this debt that's sitting over your head. It's like, yo, you got to learn how to prioritize. Prioritization. That's huge. But that goes back into discipline and sacrifice. You got to be disciplined and be willing to sacrifice in order to prioritize. Oh man, how has discipline played a role for you? Because we've had an interesting. I mean, our since 2010, we've been, nose deep in discipline, right? Which has helped. But how is that? You have any examples of like how maintaining your discipline has helped push you farther? Like, say you had a goal and like, yeah, it'd take the average person, X amount of time to do it, but because you were disciplined and sacrificed, you were able to do it, much faster.
Say buying a house.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
or
guess that is one.
buying my first one. Like I I had a budget when we were in Okie. I have a budget now. Even I got my girlfriend just moved in with me, and we
Mm-hmm.
budget like family funds. You know what I mean? Like that's allowed me to do a lot. Like that's how I got the first property. So I was able to save while I was in Okinawa over the 2 years. I believe I saved about $50,000, right? 50, maybe 60,000,
Mm-hmm.
because I made some decent investments on the side too, but nothing crazy. But I was able to take that money and put a down payment on that first home, and then fund the repairs and everything to get that thing started. And most people, it might take them forever to do it because they don't know what they're spending. They don't know how much it takes them to live a month. They don't know how to reduce their expenses. They don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
eliminate. They don't know how to budget. So I was able to do all of that stuff, and I knew like I was living on a bare minimum. Worst case scenario, I could live off about $2,400 a month. You know what I mean? So that was able to, like, even at being disciplined with that after we bought the first Airbnb, we were able to take some funds from that, and I had enough saved up where we were able to purchase the second property, and
Mm.
then from the second property we were able to go purchase a cafe. So just being disciplined in your spending. Granted, I slipped a few times. I
As
lost
does
track of it.
everyone.
Exactly, but it happened, and people should realize that it happens. But when you stay consistent, you're able to build those funds in when the opportunities come. Because I had no idea how to run a cafe,
Mm.
like how to buy a business, you know. But when you study, you continue to be a student, and you try to learn as much as possible. When opportunities come, like, you can take advantage of them. Because I knew numbers, I didn't know a cafe. I knew this
Mm.
thing had been running for 10 years and it was profiting pretty well for 10 years. And I knew, like, if we could get the right management in there, we could do the same thing. And we got in there, and I mean, things are going well, and we got big
Mm.
plans for it. But that's all possible because I was disciplined, and I was able to continue to learn and be ready for opportunities that presented themselves.
That's See, and that's big. So another question for you is,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to being a thinker, right? So I speak about this a lot, and like to a lot of people, it's like, what do you mean thinker? Everyone thinks, but like that's not true, right? I'm not talking about just like thinking about what's going on, but really taking, like, when there's a issue arises or a situation arises or an opportunity arises, really being able to sit down and think through the whole process. Like, would you say that has been extremely important, to being able to logically think through things? And all right, I don't know this. All right, I need to find someone that can give me this, this, and this. But because you were able to think it through and run it, like, you were able to get to the solution.
Absolutely. Like, the first time investing, like, I had no idea what I was doing. I bought my personal property. I always go back to this first house because
Mm-hmm.
it was my first real investment. Like, I knew being in my personal home, I'd put nothing down. Like, I could do pretty well as long as the payment was under a certain amount. I knew what I had for BAH, and I
Mm.
knew my home was under that. So no matter what, I wouldn't be out of a house if things went under. I just had to sell my investment. So that's how I went to it, man. It was logic. Like, I'm living under my means. I'm moving somebody else into my home
Ooh.
to pay less. You know what I mean? So I can save more, and then when bad times come, I have my money set aside. Like it's just this
That
every
emergency
step, man.
fund.
The emergency fund. We talked about it last time, but I'm just saying, like, just thinking logically, I'm like, all right, things could go bad in the Airbnb. You know, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
legislation can come out where Airbnb is gone. Then what? Well, we turn into a single family because it's in a great area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we thought about these things. I didn't just go in blind. Like I had some idea of what I was doing, but it's just how can I how can I it's risk
Mm.
risk. You know, like how can I reduce the amount of risk that I have to this thing? So just leveraging and everything. I just want don't over leverage. Live within your means and think about the possibilities, save for the bad times. And most of the time it works out. The only times I ever lost money is when I've been greedy or I've been impatient.
Same.
You
Same.
know what I mean? Like that's the only time I've ever lost money. Anything I've put a plan in place and actually stuck to that plan has worked for me.
I think that's because when people start getting, they want it, that instant gratification. I want it now, I want it now. And I think that's huge, is exactly what you just said. I think that's a really important thing for people to take away from this today, is that. And another thing that I saw that you spoke about in regards to how y'all were building out your portfolio was that when y'all made the initial money from y'all's first investment, y'all didn't there was no lifestyle inflation. Never did you mention a car, you didn't mention trips, you
Mhm.
didn't mention jewelry, like you didn't mention, going out to eat or all these things. Like I put it into things that would continue to be assets to me to grow money quicker. And it's like you see a lot of people who would have made that first deal and went and bought a 350 Benz or whatever, like just something crazy just to show that they did that. And it's like now all that money that you just made is tied up to something that's going to
A
depreciate to half the value.
liability.
Like, why would you do that? It's like, but there, once again, I think that comes from being around the right people. Like when you around people where y'all value materialistic things, you're gonna make bad decisions like that, as opposed to, all right, here's the plan. If I put this plan in place, X amount of years, I'll be able to cash flow this without working. These assets, now you start tying assets to things. So maybe this Airbnb pays for that car. This Airbnb pays for this thing. But now
Absolutely.
you freed yourself up. But people don't think of it that way. It's like, oh, I get this money, I need to do it now. I need to
Hmm.
show people that I'm doing well. No, you don't. No, you don't.
What? For what?
It doesn't matter. Like no one needs to know. I prefer no one knows how I'm doing. Like you could think I'm doing well, you could think I'm not doing well. Your thoughts of
Hmm.
how I'm doing doesn't affect how I'm doing. So
You're right.
so I know you said like your girlfriend. So another another thing I want to hit in. So
Hmm.
did you, when you met your girl, like did y'all have conversations about finances before like y'all really got serious?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to know what her plans for the future were and how she thought about money. You know, I didn't
Mm,
want somebody that I would constantly butt heads with or have to convince that this is a good thing. Like once I say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. If we're gonna be serious, like I want to build more. You know what I mean? I want this is how I want to get here. Or are you cool with this? Do you understand this? And we meshed up on every single point. So now we got our thing. We just rented her house out. Like we're looking for a multi-family or something more, like whatever presents itself in the future. But I'm not. We're not in a rush for a deal. We're gonna want to wait for the opportunity to come. But we both have the same mindset. We want to build as much as possible while we're in our 30s, so we can chill in our 40s. You know.
mm. But she has the understanding y'all were with that. And I think that's important because I've met a lot of people who should have had that conversation um before they started to get too serious, and
Absolutely.
they would have been able to identify some things that probably would have kept them from being together, but for good reason, right? And i I think because so many people shy away from personal finance in the conversations because they know they aren't doing what they need to do to take care of theirs. That's constantly overshadowed and overlooked. Like, and you know, I've had conversations like, and you'll see different responses. Hey, do you think that you should talk about finances before you get serious with someone? And I'm surprised I see any no's, but there's a ton of no's to that question. And it's like, why? That's like one of the most important things that y'all should be talking about
That's
prior
like the
to.
number that's like the number one reason people get divorced now. It's for
Mm,
finances. So why would
mm-hmm.
that not be a thing that predicates marriage, you know?
You know, I want to do a show with like someone who's well versed in relationships and just kind of have this conversation with them to see what their thoughts are, because I think that's extremely important, right? Like, if you're a person who's frugal, you're trying to build things, you don't like, doing all the extra stuff, but you got this person that's the complete opposite, it's gonna one of y'all gonna drive the other one crazy. And
You might
so,
drive each other crazy, you know?
right, like, and that's just a recipe for disaster every time. But it's
Exactly.
like, yo, why aren't you talking about that? What how do you spend? Do you have debt? Are you paying it off? Do you have a plan? Do you maintain a budget? Do you owe family money? Do you tell people no, or do you constantly give out money? Like, all of those
Hmm.
things are super important. Like, yo, do you care? Do you rock a bunch of designer stuff, or do you kind of just rock what you have? Like, do you care about driving a fancy car, or do you just want something to get you from A to B to be able to further other goals? Like, all of those things are very pertinent conversations that should be had. Like, how's your credit? Do you have collections accounts? Like, all these things, is for me, like, that's almost that's number one on my checklist almost. It's like, yo,
Exactly.
we gonna have, and that, I guess it sucks because I do what I do. Is like, yo, we're gonna have a very detailed conversation about this, but
Granted, it shouldn't be the topic on first date, you know what I mean? But when
yeah,
you get
of course not, of course
you're gonna
not. First
weird
thing,
somebody out.
but at some point, but I also, and here's the thing too, like, I think people got to understand that it doesn't have to be like a sitting at a interrogation table and you like, hey, what's your credit score? What's this? But it's just normal conversation. Like, hey,
Exactly.
did you have you looked at your credit before? Hey, how is that? And it's like, you might find out, like, oh yeah, I got actually, boom, boom, I got an 800 and I do this and I set this up, and it's like, oh wow. Or you can find out the complete opposite, and it's like,
The
oh,
opposite, yeah.
well, and then you have a point like, hey, that person might be what they just haven't had anyone to teach them, and they're like, oh, I'm willing to learn. Like, can you help? Cool, I'm absolutely. Or it's like, uh,
No.
I'm no, and
No.
it's like,
No.
cool, like, but now off
It's
rip.
hate
I
for us.
think I think that's huge. I'm glad that y'all were able to have that conversation and see that y'all had the same goals, because I'm sure that makes things so much easier in regards to planning. It's like, hey, I have this, and it's like, why would you do that? We got this and that. It's like, nah, okay, cool, this makes sense. And I'm sure she tries to learn with you as you go too. Like, it's not like you just doing it. So it's like, you have a teammate. Like, y'all, you playing for the same team now. That
Absolutely.
I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. She's a grinder, man. Like she even does laundry on the side. A lot of people don't know you can do other people's laundry and get paid to do it, man. But every now and
I ain't
then,
know that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You can go make a decent amount of money, like doing other people's laundry, dropping it off. And she does that every day after work, almost every day. Well, not every day, but quite often. She does laundry, bring extra income in, and it goes to our joint account. Dude, it's been a blessing finding the right person. Now, I will say
Wow. And y'all got a joint account. Like, what was that like? How did y'all come up with like the idea to do that? Because that's a conversation that I do see. Also, it's like, should you have a joint account? Should you? Nah, it's my bread. Like, nah, we're a team. We're
right.
together. Like, how did y'all come about that?
So we basically said since she was moving out of her house and into my house that the way we do it is uh I pay the mortgage and she would pay the bills,
Mm,
and she would match me on the mortgage, and then we put in stuff for like date nights or taking a trip. A portion of our
mm,
funds together goes into that, and a portion of that also will go for investing. So we got an account that we'll do some investing together with, and I've got a little bit of money on the side. We both have money on the side for our personal investments, just in case anything goes wrong.
mm-hmm.
We're not like not going in this blindly. Like if things were to end, like we both be okay. We
Mm-hmm.
had that conversation too. Like, I don't want to tie all our stuff together. Like this is yours on the side, and you can keep your money on the side. So that's how we went about it, and it's been working pretty well for us.
Man, that's awesome. I'll make sure I take some notes for one day when I gotta have that conversation.
For sure, for sure,
But
for sure.
yeah, man, like overall, I think there's a lot. We had a lot of good stuff that people can take away from this show today. Like I think a lot of people who've been in similar situations and are experiencing some of the same things that may get an indicator of like, hey, I can make it through this, or hey, I just need to do that, or maybe it's just, hey, maybe I need to push my pride to the side and ask for help. Like it starts there. Really, that's the start for a lot of people. Is like get rid of the pride, and step one is just asking someone for help and knowing who the right person is to ask for help, right? Because you can ask the wrong people for help, and they'll send you in the complete opposite direction you were expecting to go. So that's another thing too. Is like doing your research, like, and don't just think about, oh, this person knows, like, what is their character like what how do they
Mm-hmm.
carry themselves, what do they do, because all of that is important, like to assure that they're going to guide you in the direction that you want to go. If you got somebody that may be knowledgeable but they're a dirtbag, like I don't know how far you want to follow them, right? So um before we end the episode today, do you have anything else that you would like to throw to the audience or put out there for them to, like, as a takeaway for today?
The other thing is, man, at some point you just gotta jump off the porch. Understand, like the first thing you do, first deal you do, first job you do, might not be a home run when you do it, or first investment might not be a home run, but make sure you just have the knowledge and the confidence to jump off the porch at some point.
Mm,
Because if you're consistent in your learning, consistent in networking, consistent in putting out content, like eventually you're going to get some momentum. And don't let the opinions of others dissuade you from chasing your dreams.
ooh,
You know?
I like it. I like it. Well, um, if anybody has questions about things like Airbnb and stuff, do you have any way they can get in contact with you?
You can message me, DM me on IG at Captain Q underscore 32. Soon to change, but Captain Q underscore 32 right now. And if anybody knows anybody that needs a financial advisor, I'm looking to grow my book right now. So please have them reach out to me as well.
Hey, absolutely. So for those of you listening or watching and listening, I'll put Q's contact info in the show notes so that you can see that and you can follow him and message him and get the information that you need. But I want to thank everyone for listening today. And if you have any questions, you know where to go. Let's get in the smoke. Thank you for listening to the Finance Bruh. If you feel like this episode has added value to you today, then please be sure to go to Amazon and purchase a copy of my book, The In the Smoker Mindset. You can also go to my website at www.inthesmoker.com and sign up for my budgeting course. You can also find more information on my financial coaching and credit repair services. And if you really want to help support the brand, you can also purchase some merchandise. Let people know what In the Smoker is about. All right. I hope to see you next week. Let's get in the smoke.